Hello, Jordan Chariton, live Status Coup, Thursday, August the 10th, the year 2023 in the United Corporations of America. I hope everybody is having a lovely day in these trying times. A lot going on. Full disclosure, I had a guest lined up in Maui. Obviously, the wildfires are just devastating that part of Hawaii. 36 people have died thus far. Whole areas of historic Hawaii are destroyed. There certain people are pretending not to know what caused the wildfires. I think we know. It's been extremely dry without much rain, which is perfect conditions for wildfires. But unfortunately, that guest had to cancel because it's chaos there right now. Others I tried to get just didn't really work out because of the connection and other things. So we will definitely get a guest, but it was just not possible timing and logistically to get someone like this minute. And I don't have CNN's resources for, a satellite truck and all that. So we definitely are thinking about folks there. It is absolutely horrific what's going on there. This is not a normal thing, as far as I know, in Hawaii, and is further evidence that we are in a climate emergency and we have a president and a political class that is perfectly content to do nothing because they're not going to have to deal with it. They're all, for the most part, in their 70s and 80s, our political leadership. And they'll be dead before planet Earth is lit up in flames. So Biden, I believe, earlier this week said, practically speaking, he's already declared a climate emergency, which is a complete joke. He absolutely has not declared a climate emergency because if he did declare a climate emergency, there would be clear resources that would come with that. So we will monitor the Hawaii situation and definitely get a guest over the next few days. Also, we're going to be taking phone calls today. So definitely, Colin, put up the number whenever you can. We'll switch to phone calls soon. Open mic if you want to talk 2024, if you want to talk about the wildfires and the climate crisis, if you want to talk. I've been covering what I believe is going to be a massive United Auto Workers strike coming up in September. And I do have a request out to interview Sean Fain, who is the president of United Auto Workers, who frankly is a pretty big badass. I did a video the other day how he took the contract offer from Stellantis, which bought Chrysler years ago, and threw it in the garbage. And we could talk about really whatever. I'm pretty open. Whatever you want to talk about. But other things going on. The other day, I covered a really, really electric, incredible, and smash the like button. Share this live stream to get it out to more people. So thumbs up right under the video. Super chats are welcome. The other day, I covered a really, really amazing electric strike. It was day 5 of that strike. Today is day 7. Among 1,700 nurses in New Jersey that went on strike over what a lot of nurses are suffering all over the country, understaffing, one nurse having to treat 7 or 8 sick patients when the normal ratio is 1 nurse to maybe 3 patients. Less so about wages, more so about understaffing that's been dangerous. Definitely check out that live stream. It's up on the channel. I went for about 2 hours. Honestly, it was the most exciting electric event I've been to in a long time. There must have been 400 or 500 nurses and their allies out there on the street. They had bagpipes going. They had banging on drums, people chanting, singing. They were really just based. And I interviewed nurses and, we aired speeches. I saw one other reporter there. Didn't see anyone from CNN or MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, Daily Beast, Associated Press. I saw one other reporter there for hundreds of nurses out striking. of 1,700 nurses that are on strike. So definitely check that out. As Lewis told you yesterday, he will be going to East Palestine next week with John, his 4th reporting trip. I know you don't hear it in the headlines anymore. I know it's not the sexy news story that it was 6 months ago. It is still, let's say the word, a disaster. It is still an emergency situation. Just because you don't hear a story in the headlines anymore doesn't mean it's still not a disaster. It just means what the corporate media exists to do, they're doing, which is to cover it up and sweep it under the rug. So I spoke with Lewis about an hour ago. He's got great interviews lined up with some faces you already know, some new people as well, covering residents still getting sick. I actually just had a resident message me, sadly, that her spouse died. I haven't spoken with her. I don't know what from, but unfortunately, there's been a lot more deaths recently in East Palestine, which we're digging in to find out what the cause of deaths are. From what I was told, there's been a significant uptake in deaths in East Palestine since February compared to the 6 months before. There's also been more residents getting seizures. So Lewis is trying to line up some of those residents to talk to them. Obviously, we can't definitively 100% say it's because of the derailment, but we can talk to residents who have not had seizures before the derailment, who were healthy before the derailment and are now suddenly having seizures. In a normal, sane system, this would still be on the front page of newspapers, that residents in an American community had a toxic train detonated over their village, and the EPA and the railroad company have been gaslighting and lying to them for months over the contamination, doing bullshit testing that even the EPA admitted was not adequate, and they don't even have the right equipment to get all levels of contamination. You have residents just begging for help. You have Norfolk Southern, literally, as Lewis reported yesterday, go check out that live stream. He delivered a lot of important information. You literally have the railroad company trying to do a bait and switch right now to offer a cleaning program, i.e. a program where they're cleaning for dust in homes filled with toxic chemicals. That if you sign up for the cleaning program, you basically forfeit your rights to continued funds for temporary relocation. There are still residents 6 months later staying in hotels because their homes still smell like toxic diesel stations. And when they go in, residents we've spoken with tell us within a half hour, an hour, they're getting symptoms: eyes burning, sore throat, eye irritation, dizziness, you name it. Yet Norfolk Southern, with the EPA's blessing, by the way, it's on the EPA's website, is offering cleaning, i.e. dust cleaning, not hazmat cleaning, not chemical cleaning. And if you sign on for that cleaning, you got to come home. You're cut off from temporary relocation. So I'm really excited for Lewis to go. Listen, we already have about 200 people watching. I'm not beyond begging. We need you. We need you. If you're not yet a Status Coup member, get off the pot, get off the fence, sign up today. This is Lewis' 4th reporting trip there in 6 months. I could promise you he'll be the only reporter there, just like he was the only reporter there last time. These residents need us, and we need you. So if you got $5 to $10 a month, please, it's going towards on-the-ground reporting. Like I said, I can't say for certain, but based on the sources that I'm talking to, it looks like there's going to be a massive auto workers strike in about a month. The deadline for the contract for United Auto Workers, General Motors, Ford, Stellantis is September 14th. Based on what I'm hearing, it looks very likely we're going to have a strike. And that would be a strike potentially with all of those workers: GM, Ford, Stellantis. That's 150,000 workers. You better believe we're going. But again, costs money. I'll be going. Costs money. We'll cover that strike as long as we can, or my wife will let me. I have a 9-month-old. 9-month-old tomorrow. Happy early 9-month birthday to my beautiful princess daughter, Lily. I would love to bring her on the live stream, but my wife won't let me. So I digress. Welcome, new Status Coup member, Tommy Z just became a YouTube member. Welcome, Tommy. That's what I'm talking about. I beg you answer. Sign up. You can become a YouTube member or sign up to our website, statuscoup.com/join. That is our preferred option. If you're going to sign up, do it through our website. But if YouTube's easier for you, whatever. We like having control over the information, not YouTube, for obvious reasons. Anyway, we'll have more promotions and more previews on our Substack about what reporting will come up from Lewis on Saturday. As the days come up, but he'll be there all next week. We're also covering an event Saturday morning. John Ferrito will be covering an event, I think in New York. Saturday morning will be live from New York, where he'll be covering an event. I think the migrant crisis in New York, where the current mayor is basically allowing migrants to languish outside hotels in sweltering heat. There's a rally, I believe, in some conservative area to get rid of them. So we'll be covering that because we believe there's going to be counter protesters too. All right. Don't be shy. Let's get the calls going. Super chats are appreciated, as are member signups. I will shout out new members as you sign up. Let's get the call program started here. If I remember how to do it. Host show, save and start. Ready. Connect to show. Share my screen.
Interface.
All right. You should see it, Colin. 200 people watching. Smash that like button. Share this live stream so we can get it out to more people. Yeah. Oh, also, I'm going to have very good news to share. Probably maybe tomorrow or next week. I will have very good news on the Flint waterfront. Well, I should say promising news for myself and all of us. So stay tuned for that. We might have some good news to share on the Flint front. So excited for that. All right. Let's see here. Colin, just let me know when we have our first caller, and I will just surf the comments. Until then, strike, Arlene says. Hey, listen, it's hard. On one hand, I want these workers to get the contract that they deserve, and they are asking for a 40% increase in wages to match the 40% increase in executive compensation that the CEOs have gotten. I'm with them. Technically, I would love if they didn't have to strike and the auto companies just did the right thing. But I would also selfishly love there to be a big ass strike with over to go cover. Did I do it wrong?
Oh no, you got your first caller.
All right. Charles, you're up.
You hear me?
I can.
Can you? Oh yeah, I was just calling about the interview that Jimmy Dore did yesterday with Marianne Williamson, and I thought that was despicable the way he treated her. I mean, I don't really like Marianne Williamson that much, but it was just I couldn't believe. I mean, even for him, how rude he was to her. I don't know if you saw it or not.
I did see it. I did. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did see, I guess, the finer points. There's so many responses. Obviously, the channels that just kind of, for lack of a better word, blow Jimmy Dore constantly so that they could get his audience are never going to challenge him or are never going to criticize him, because basically how they grow is just kissing his ass and bowing down to him, which is pretty pathetic. But anyway, a few things. Number one, did you notice how different Jimmy treated Marianne Williamson versus RFK Jr.?
RFK.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was like a pillow party. It was like a pillow party with RFK, but like an inquisition with Marianne Williamson. I wonder why that is.
But he did trash RFK afterwards about the Israel thing.
Right, but with RFK in studio, I believe it was. RFK basically gave the same answer Hillary Clinton used to give on Medicare for All, and Jimmy didn't even challenge him. Mr. Force the Vote. Mr. I'm going to cancel everybody and their mother if they don't, are not as strong as me or don't agree with me on forced to vote. By the way, I did agree on forced to vote. I still do. I'm going to cancel everybody and their mother. But when I have RFK sitting with me and he's giving a ham-handed answer, well, theoretically, I think it would be good, but I don't think it's practical. He's like, what about a public option? RFK says, yeah, that would be good. And then he just moves on. It's so transparent that this guy is clearly playing to a certain audience for money. And he's a fake tough guy. I mean, I don't know what other way to say it. As far as Marianne, I think I don't really agree with Marianne on Ukraine. However, I also, as an interviewer, I think it's important not to be disingenuous. And I think that he was trying to make it seem or like spin her answers into like, so you support funding Ukraine over homeless people, when clearly that's not what she's saying. I think Jimmy, I don't know if he's smart enough, but I think Jimmy realizes that the two things are not like, it's not black or white. It's not like if the Russia-Ukraine war was not happening, that suddenly America would be spending the money on eradicating homeless. I wish we lived in that country.
He had her on. No, he had her on just to abuse her. You can tell.
Yeah.
He had her on just to throw red meat to his audience. He didn't care what she said. Because he brought up, well, just like 3 years ago when you said about Julian Assange, you're wrong again. Like that was just so horrible. I mean,
no, it was 100% to play to his audience. It didn't really. Again, I didn't see the whole thing, but I saw enough. It was very clear, like he wasn't really interested in hearing her positions, even hearing what she had to say. He was interested on grilling her or making her seem corrupt. Right. And I interviewed her. I challenged her on Ukraine because I didn't think it was a great answer. But at the same time, I don't think she is Biden on war. I don't think she is like every other Democrat on war. I mean, we might disagree on this specific thing, but I think that she is a lot more progressive than other corporate Democrats. But Jimmy was trying to basically make it seem that she's just some corrupt ghoul that, wants to fund the military industrial complex and doesn't care about homeless people. And it's just disingenuous. And he also was like cutting her off when she was trying to speak, but then like doing this reverse psychology thing.
He's trying to abuse her. That's all. Yeah. And another thing.
But I just want to go back for a point. It is amazing to me that this guy with a straight face can do a video slamming Cornel West for like not going hard enough against Anderson Cooper. And I think he said something like, does anybody know how to do an interview? When you're literally sitting there like slobbering over RFK and won't lay a finger on him. And none of the
he's afraid to even mention Sam Cedar's name because Sam Cedar criticizes him the most, but he knows Sam Cedar would destroy him.
And none of his little mini-me channels will ever criticize him. They just throw his name in a headline and bow down to him, and it works for them. They're growing their audience because his viewers come over for him. But I personally, I would not sleep well at night if that's what I was doing. And to not call him out for his pathetic RFK Jr. interview while you call other people out for like quote unquote softballs, give me a break.
And every episode for the last 3 years, I mean, I'm anti-vaccine and all that COVID stuff too. But every episode he has a COVID, like at least half COVID and anti-vax. I mean, it's like move on with it. I mean, that's half of his show every time.
Well, I mean, listen, the bottom line is, and I've been doing this YouTube thing for, I don't know, 7-8 years at this point. Follow the money, folks. As I always tell you, follow the money, whether it's in politics, media, or anything else. You got to look at trends. I mean, I've said this before. If you look back, I think Jimmy was at around, 850,000 subscribers, and he was kind of just stuck there. I mean, I'd be happy to be stuck there but he wasn't really growing, and he was saying, I'm being suppressed by YouTube and this and that. And then like overnight, all of a sudden, he just switched to doing like 25 COVID videos a week. And it was all the same shit, pretending he's just asking questions, but it was clearly catering to anti-vax people. A lot of it was just factually wrong, which he doesn't care about. I mean, I could tell you from knowing him at TYT, he did no research. He just reading an article on air. That was the first time he was reading it. That was a known thing at TYT. And yeah, I mean, he shot up in subscribers and live viewers, and others did it too. It's not just him. Played the whole like anti-vax, I'm gonna, Fauci is Lucifer thing. And then he started to shift on other things that were clearly a play to the right. I mean, his kind of talk again about LGBT people, trans people. Now he's doing videos kind of like climate skeptic, and they're lying to you about climate change.
That's really
so to me.
I used to really like him.
To me, I mean, if people want to watch that and support that and think he's progressive, then watch whatever you want. But I did feel bad. I mean, I did feel bad, not really for Marianne Williamson, but I do feel bad that people are hoodwinked to the point that they think this is like a genuine, real progressive. It's very clear to me at this point. He used to be. I used to know him, and I used to be friends with him. But it's very clear to me. I mean, just look at what RFK Jr. compared to Marianne Williamson. I mean, it was night and day. And he's clearly, to me, he barely even covers labor and union issues anymore, which right now is the biggest thing happening in the progressive movement. So, yeah.
So he spends all the time covering COVID.
Yeah, but he keeps bringing COVID back up because he knows without that topic, that's his money winner. I mean, he can't. There's only so long you could go on bashing Bernie in every video. People get bored. Bashing AOC in every video, which is what he was doing for a while. People get bored. So COVID is his moneymaker. And eventually people will get bored with that. So I think he's continuing to do COVID because that's what has been working for him. But I could tell you, because I have spoken with people that used to work with him or for him. I've spoken with people who used to be friends with him. He let me put it this way. He does not say everything he believes about COVID. It's a lot more batshit and conspiratorial than he even says on air. Why he doesn't say it on air, I don't know if he's worried about YouTube or whatever, but from what I have been told by people I trust, he has said things privately that are much more far out there on COVID. So anyway, I don't want to talk Jimmy for this whole show, but I did think that was pretty disgraceful how he treated Marianne. Whether you agree with her or not, there's a way to like treat someone who comes on your show in good faith. And he clearly wanted to just try to shame and embarrass her.
And even through all that adversity, she handled herself really well. I will say that she kept the high road.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, listen, not every candidate will go into enemy territory. She's not stupid. I'm sure she knows going on his show that what his spiel is and that he disagrees with her. So, credit to her for going on.
I'm sure she won't go on again.
But to tell you the truth, I mean, I think there is a lane right now in progressive media that I am happy to pick up because it's what I've done for years, where Jimmy and others who I guess used to do it but aren't anymore, there's a big lane right now for workers fighting back. You know, what's going on with the UAW workers right now, the UPS workers. There's other strikes going on that I'm reaching out to try and do interviews. People are interested in it, and rightly so. And I don't see a lot of people covering it. I mean, other than Status Coup, Breaking Points covers labor. The Real News covers labor. Other than that, you name shows that really cover it. So he could cover his COVID and other bullshit, and we'll cover, real things.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Thanks, man. All right. Up now, I believe, Humorous.
You there, Jordan?
I am. How are you in the fascist country of Florida?
Oh, it sucks as usual. I talk to truck drivers all the time. I owned a trucking company for 22 years. Just because I'm homeless doesn't mean, and people need to know this, I am not desolate. I'm not destitute, okay? I just no longer have a home. That's because I live in the fascist country of Florida. It has nothing to do with anything other than austerity and bullshit. That's it. So, anyways, now we can move on. I can tell you what's going on about the strikes. First of all, strikes only create a situation for the people that are in them. Okay? In other words, yeah, they may or may not win what they want. The problem is how far will they fall into the hole doing it? There are, look, where the garage that a lot of times I stay in now, because I'm really getting old and the woods are becoming seriously a problem to me. So I pretty much live in this garage now. All right. But where this garage is, people constantly have UPS and FedEx and crime drivers. They're always here. They're literally part of the neighborhood. Okay? And they all say the same things. There's a group of people that I don't think actually realizes this as the general public. And I know this because I was in the trucking industry. The truck drivers, the interstate truck drivers, know exactly what all of these little van drivers are doing. They will support them 100%. Okay? Just like the little van drivers will support them. You know who else they support? The trains. In other words, this group of people can literally shut down America in a day. Here's why that doesn't happen, and all you see is these little pockets. They would prefer to do it that way, okay? But that people actually can't afford to go on strike. They're afraid that the community itself, which it should do, won't help them with food, water, and the shelter for their families while they actually change America for the better. That's what they're afraid of. Their own families. If everyone would be willing to help them, because a lot of these really powerful unions, sir, like UAW, they can't even afford to pay the rent and to keep shelter for a family and food for that family while that man or woman or both strike. You understand?
I do. I think a couple things. I think a major reason people can't go on strike here or are afraid to go on strike, we've talked about it before, is you don't have a safety net here. Your health benefits are connected to your job. That's really why politicians are not for Medicare for all, because their donors don't want that separated. Their donors know, and the bosses of the United Corporations of America know, that if we separate healthcare from employment, you're basically taking the noose off people's neck. Not that it would be completely easy to quit your job with no worries at that point, but raise your hand if you would have quit a job at some point in your life if healthcare wasn't attached to it. I have several. You know, maybe go live with your friend or your parent if you had that kind of thing for a while and look for other work. So a lot of people just cannot afford because they don't have that security, don't have health coverage as a right, and other benefits. And like France has strong labor unions, so it's very unlikely you're going to get fired for going, protesting and going on strike in European countries. But what I think is important about something like a massive UAW strike, and there's 150,000 workers. Of course, not every worker is going to physically strike, but let's say you have 60, 70, 80,000 workers in various parts of the country on strike. It's almost like a political campaign. It really becomes contagious to other workers if they see that many people, their strength in numbers out there every day. The car's horns honking, people with signs. I was at a strike the other night, bagpipes, people on drums, and UAW, I think, might be even more militant than that. That kind of energy, that kind of solidarity
is now.
contagious.
It is now.
Right. And I think it could inspire others, maybe not a massive strike like a UAW, but it could inspire other organizing to go on, small, medium, and big. The other thing is UAW has a strike fund of over $850 million. Let me repeat that. Their strike fund is over $850 million. So they cannot pay a striking worker's full salary, but they can pay a couple $100 a week. They can offer some slice of health.
It's a very powerful union.
Right. So
that's what I said.
Yeah.
Even the power of that union cannot actually maintain a strike for a long time because the people can't do it for a long time. If the rest of the communities that they're trying to help actually don't help them.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
It's kind of like you, bro. It's kind of like you bringing real news to us. If people do not support your channel, you go away.
Absolutely. 100%. But I do think part of the calculation also has to be, yes, they could only go on strike for so long, but these companies, they could only afford, in their mind, a strike to go on for so long. And what I mean by that is these companies, they're only thinking the next 3 months. Their focus is the quarter profits. Their focus is the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, the fourth quarter. How much stock buybacks can we do? How much dividends can we give to our shareholders?
Yeah, I understand the monetary system in our country better than most.
Yeah.
But it's total bullshit, dude. The best dude that you've ever had on your show is Steve Grumbine. That dude literally holds the keys to the bars and chains that bind everybody. They just don't know that they're bound because they don't see them. And that's what it's been set up to be. Everybody in this country, everyone in that 99%, I don't care if you make $1 million a year, you are a slave. You're just higher up the slave ladder. And you're gonna fall at the end anyway. It makes no difference.
I agree. I think, bottom line, Rome wasn't built in a day. It didn't fall in a day. This corrupt cesspool of a country did not become corrupt in a day. And we're going to have to dig ourselves out of this brick by brick, strike by strike. But I'd like to start with a massive one in the heartland of America, because it would mostly be in the Midwest. The media would be forced to cover it because it would go on probably for weeks, if not months. And I would certainly be out there as long as I can. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it if it happens. Right now, I think it is going to happen because this.
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't like Democrats. Okay. I don't like the GOP. The GOP started the first damn Civil War. They tried to start a second one on January 6th. They have always been a thorn in the United States of America. Always, since it was began. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I don't give a crap about Democrats either, because they allow them to get away with it. If they actually cared, like they always say they do. Now, look, I admit, Democrats are easier to deal with. They don't want to shoot you with an AR-15 for disagreeing with them. They don't do those things. And yeah, in general, more times than not, they're a hell of a lot more towards like helping the people than actually just supporting one group of that people.
Right.
But they're really not a lot better. One spreads lies and propaganda. The other omits truth and covers the rest of the shit with a shovel. So, I mean, dude, it's time. It's time for a change, because this has been failing for almost what? A century? 2 centuries?
Well,
This is failing, bro. This is what started Germany on this path to destruction.
I agree. Well, at the end of the day, the revolt might be expedited, because if you look what's going on right now in Maui, if you look what's been going on all over this country, world, with the climate apocalypse.
I didn't even know that was going on until I saw your show.
Yeah. If you look at it, people are, I mean, even people that are not even like hardcore into politics, people are going to fucking revolt pretty soon, between the prices, between everything burning and nothing being done about any of it. You push people.
Dude, it's
too
so
much.
hot down here, man.
Yeah.
It's so hot here.
Yeah.
I mean, the dogs can't even walk on the sidewalks out here. They have to be on grass.
Jesus.
They don't even want to be out there. It's so hot, man. It's literally, the country of Florida is literally burning.
Well, so is Ron DeSantis's presidential political ambition. So maybe that's
the best. That's the best news that could ever come out of the country of Florida.
Absolutely.
Let them all burn to the ground. Nobody in the look. You'd be surprised. There's a lot more people in this country. I don't give a shit how crazy and batshit redneck, no-tooth people there are. They're getting really fed up with this bullshit. They're willing to fight the GOP now. They're just willing to fight anybody.
Absolutely. Listen, I got to run to the next caller because I got a long list. But thanks for calling in, buddy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thanks for taking my call. Y'all have a great day. Say hi to everybody.
All right. Be well. All right. Darren, you're up.
Good evening, Jordan.
Hey there.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Jordan, how are you, my brother? It's a pleasure to speak with you. First thing I want to do is just give honor to you, brother. You are a really honorable brother. I want to say this to you. We have an opportunity to take everybody in America out of poverty, put awesome income in people's pockets every week and residual income. I'm involved with a financial literacy company. We teach people everything they need to know about money right from home. And with this opportunity, we unify everybody. Man, we got to put that money behind Cornel West because he's the only one who's speaking for us. All of these unions who are currently protesting, all of those employees across the world can put between $200 to maybe $1,000 back in their paychecks. Never ask their boss for a raise. They all can give themselves a raise. We haven't been taught this. And we can use this tool, man, take the whole world out of poverty. I've been breaking my neck to try to find out where you're going to be because you're the guy I need to talk to, man. My telephone number is 267-831-8518. I'll drive to wherever you are. We got to get this movement going. We have no time to bullshit. Everybody's talking this and talking that. When 2024 comes around, we got to be ready for the third party. We're tired of these Republicans and Democrats. They ain't doing shit. People are suffering. They go to the store. They can't even buy a fucking gallon of milk. It's gotten so bad out here, man. What we can do, Jordan, call me, man.
I'll tell you what. I think that right now, there hasn't been a better opportunity for a third-party candidate who is a progressive, or whatever label you want, progressive, populist, worker, champion of workers. I don't think there's been a more favorable atmosphere, perhaps other than 2016, because I think if Bernie would have dropped out and then ran Green Party, I think he had a chance against Trump and Clinton in the general election. I'm not saying Cornel West would necessarily win, because obviously that would be an uphill climb. But I think there's a strong chance if he plays his card well, if his campaign organizes well, I think he could surpass 5%. I think he might be able to get 15 to 20%, because I think Trump, at that point, you're talking 4 indictments. Only, I think even some Republicans are turning away from him. Biden, I think, is going to have a deflated Democratic base. I think a lot of black voters in particular, younger voters, as of now, if the election were held today, I don't think they would vote if it were Biden versus Trump. Maybe they would consider Cornel West. So I think the conditions are very good for someone like Cornel West. I think he's just going to have to, do the interviews, but also get out there. I'd like to see him out on picket lines. I'd like to see him out doing rallies, and he's got to galvanize people.
Hey, Jordan, are you familiar with Jeffrey Sachs?
Oh, yeah. I love Jeffrey Sachs.
What an honorable guy. I'd love to see him. He's an economist. I'd love to see him run for president because he's a very honorable person. We've never had an honorable president.
I'm actually
not racist.
I'm actually quite surprised he's invited on cable corporate media sometimes because he says a lot of things that they usually don't let. Yeah.
He lays it on the line. Hey, Jordan, you got my number, brother. Call me right away. We gotta organize, man. When I tell you, my brother, we will set the whole world free from poverty. We take homeless people, give them their own business. All our brothers and sisters coming out of prison, give them their own business from day one. All those people struggling with high rent and everything, man. We'll just bless the world. You'll see something that'll blow your mind. I'd like to get you on the phone with the founder of the company. So you got my number, 267-831-8518. I thank you for your call. My name is Mr. L.
All right, man. Take care. Before I take the next caller, I want to give some shout outs. We got new Status Coup member Daniel just signed up. Welcome, Daniel. Thanks for signing up. We got new Status Coup member Tommy Z just signed up. And we got new Status Coup member Mike Thompson just signed up. So that's 3 new members. If you came to this late, we're getting back on the ground next week. Lewis will be making his 4th reporting trip to East Palestine with our cameraman, John Farina. If things go the way I think they're going to go, I'll be on the ground covering what I think is going to be a massive UAW strike in a month. I was just out covering the nurses' strike in New Jersey. Farina is going out this weekend covering an event. We're out there. We're not just in a studio. We're out there on the ground in the trenches, independent. We don't have money from the banks, fossil fuckers, big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, or the military industrial complex. So if you got $5 to $10 a month, please sign up today, statuscoup.com/join. That's the only way we could grow, continue reporting on the ground, hire more reporters. We were able to bring in Lewis as a reporter because of you and because we got more members to sign up. But I'd love to do more. Obviously pay Colin, John, Tina, and bring in other people too, and spread our wings and be able to travel and cover more things. It's a grind. We don't take corporate money, so it is a grind, and we don't get a lot of help from YouTube. So please, if you can, sign up today, statuscoup.com/join. All right, next up is Chris.
Jordan, can you hear me?
I can.
How are you this evening?
I am good.
I appreciate. Good. I appreciate. I'm
on the phone,
what you do, Jordan. I wanted to say, I've been watching you since you was in your parents' kitchen when you. I pushed follow on that day, that first day you made your first video. I love what you do. You do it right. So I'm gonna throw it out there, Jordan, for you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think I'm on speakerphone. If you could do the phone straight to your ear.
Okay. So you can hear me, Jordan?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So I just wanted to call to just say I think that Cornell is a game changer, to use a cliche. I think he's not Ralph Nader. He's not Jill Stein. He's not Ross Perot. He's not any of those, previous recent third-party candidates. He's a different guy. And I think he presents a much different challenge to the Democratic establishment, just the political establishment than they've seen before. I think that, it's not the message necessarily. It's not his credentials necessarily. It's not his, experience, political experience necessarily. It's not even his experience as an activist that I think, or, activism, or even his religious experience that I think would makes him such a new candidate. He's Black American, and he's putting his experience as a Black American up front, and he's using that as part of his agenda and part of his message and part of his connection to America as a whole. And I think that's an angle that we haven't seen. So Jesse Jackson, I'm going Jesse Jackson 84, the old school Jesse Jackson with the afro and the thumbs up. that Jesse Jackson, I think, posed a similar challenge. But he ran the Democratic establishment. Jesse got gobbled up in that whole thing. The black vote got gobbled up. But he poses the same challenge to the Democratic, or at least to that part of it, establishment, than we've seen before. And so I think we're going to see him shave off the black vote. We're already seeing it. And I want to say this. So I've been looking at all the YouTube videos. Every day I kind of see what's the new stuff and the videos. And he's been on different platforms. Obviously, Cornel has. He's been on different platforms, and you can see in the comments, the responses he gets have been consistent. Like, people haven't been trashing him in most, particularly the more so, African American slanted comment sections. It's been positive,
right?
And people are saying, "Wow." And he's different, and I'm gonna vote for him. And it hasn't been. I watched the Stephen Smith video. I watched, just yesterday's he did with Stephen A. Smith, and he did recently with on the Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
And the biggest black political platform, which I got problems with, but he was there and he presented the message, and it was all thumbs up. So I think that him being able to have that political, have that vote behind him, I think it can really change how this is done. This whole third party, alternative party thing is going to go. He's a unique figure, and he's the jazz thing. The whole jazz message he puts up, I think, has been very telling. He's outward with it, because I think people kind of brush that aside. When he says those things, they think it's political speak, right? But he means it. Like, he's a music file, and he loves it, and he understands what Coltrane meant to Black America, right, and what it meant to the American experience. He creates these connections between the funk, or bebop or jazz, to his political campaign, and I think that's unique. And I think Biden ain't doing that. Trump ain't doing that. I think it's something we ain't seen before. And it's just going to be a beautiful thing when we see him on stage with them.
Yeah. And
to see him present the message. I think it's important that people who follow him don't lose sight of where he's trying to, approach it from.
Yeah. And
I think that people may turn off from him because he's coming with the jazz thing. And they may say, it may turn. I don't think it's going to turn people off, and they shouldn't allow it to turn them off.
Yeah.
And let him ride it out, because it's a strong message, and I think it can really be powerful. And the Democrats, we want to watch them squirm. I think that's the time for the Democrats to squirm over the black vote. Hey, you was in South Carolina, Jordan. Talk about South Carolina when you were down there and he lost it down there.
I sure was.
Remember you while you was down there.
I sure was.
It was bullshit. It was bullshit. You saw Clyburn. Hey, Clyburn tripped me out, Jordan. Remember when he said, you remember this? He went up there and said, they asked him about Stokely Carmichael. He said, and Bill Clinton went up there and said, Clyburn waved his hand. Remember that? Clyburn waved his hand and he got the black vote and Biden was risen. Remember that?
He is one
I'm glad we went
corrupt
with that
motherfucker.
Part of the black movement than the Stokely Carmichael. That was amazing. That said it all to me.
Yeah.
Hey, Cornell is saying Stokely Carmichael. He's saying Kwame Ture to them. He's going to quote the guy. Trust me. He's ready. And that's the problem. That's what Clyburn and them ain't ready for. Clyburn's 83 years old, Jordan. He's 83.
And very
Hey,
corrupt.
the age
Very
thing,
corrupt. Yeah.
It's a problem. And leadership ain't ready, and they think that they're going to wheel out who's the guy from Brooklyn, the new House Speaker. They think they're going to wheel him out.
Hakeem Jeffries.
And he's going to be the leader. They're in trouble, Jordan. And so I'm excited. And I want to see, people who really believe in third alternative parties be excited. And I want to see that, we just let it all play out. Just let it happen.
Well,
because it's going to be a beautiful thing.
I will say
and you're going to see something you've never seen before.
I will say this. I think obviously what attracted people to Bernie was, obviously the policies, but I think it's bigger than that. And I think you brought it up. There's something about in this moment where people are desperate and people are angry and people are cynical and people just are, one disaster away from being on the streets. There's something about hearing someone like West speak and feeling like, wow, that person actually gets me. He's not full of shit. And I think that's why people like Bernie in the first place back in the day. And I think the way Cornel talks, I mean, I remember I've heard him speak before, but the New Hampshire primary in 2020, the eve of the primary, Bernie's campaign had a massive event at this arena in New Hampshire. I forget, a band played. Cornel spoke, and honestly, it was one of the most electric political speeches I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot. There's just, the man has a way that he speaks that it's coming from his soul. And I'm not saying this as a fanboy. I'm saying this just as an observer, that it really is attractive to people that they might not agree with him on everything, but they're just so fed up with the corruption. They're so fed up with the status quo that he might be the man of the moment. On the other hand, I just want to caution people, and this isn't specifically about Cornel West, but I think we learned our lesson as progressives. We can't fall into hero worship either. We can't fall into, if we just get Cornel West, in there, or we just get Cornel West to overperform, support him. But also people need to be active outside of electoral politics too. Don't put everything into Cornel and this presidential election. Get involved in the union fights, get involved in mutual aid, get involved in tenants unions, get involved in stuff going on outside electoral politics, because we got to learn our lesson. Don't put all your apples into the Bernie basket or the squad basket or any of those baskets. Make sure you're balanced, where you're not just, it's okay to get excited and invigorated, but remember, we got to do things outside of electoral politics too.
Exactly. And I think that's been part of your thing, is you always highlight the union movements.
Absolutely.
And, I'm a union guy. I'm AFL. And so, I'm proud of it, and I try to represent it. And I think what you said about, again, not putting eggs in the, Bernie was a big disappointment. I think what the message that Cornel has to have is that he have a movement.
Yeah.
And that was Bernie's message too, right? But it's got to be, we got to establish a real left, a hard left here. It needs to be, we need to have an alternative electorally. I'm looking at electoral politics. It needs to be a alternative to the left. And it's, Green Party's had its issues, and they've been hot and cold, and, it's tough to, it needs to be something. Bernie didn't leave us with a legacy. And that's been something you said, and others have said, that there's nothing, our revolution was nothing. It was a whisper. It was gone
right
after it was done. There was no really organizational to it. And, it seemed as though we get duped into the movement idea without building the movement part, right?
Right.
So I think that's, it has to be much more organizational in terms of, I think that's got to be part of his message, is that he's been saying that a bit, that it has to be something that's beyond him.
Yeah.
And that's something we can rely on electorally, at least, to represent the interests, But again, I think, he ain't Bernie, right? So I think I'm looking at him way differently than Bernie. Bernie ran as a Democrat, bad move.
Yeah.
We saw that. And we're seeing that with JFK. We're seeing that with Marianne Williamson. And I think that just running outside of it, I mean, obviously it's a long shot, but I think that it could be seismic. I think it could really make a big shakeup in terms of how things can happen at that level, and the sort of, just looking at what sort of candidacy he would run.
Well, also the bottom line is if he gets out there for rallies and starts getting Bernie type crowds, and you're comparing it to Biden, who, if he's lucky, might fill out a high school gymnasium, then the Democrats are going to have a problem. Sure. They're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Because even Trump is starting, a lot of his events have a lot of empty seats too. But if West starts pulling, major crowds, it might not be, Bernie level, but we're talking 5,000 to 10,000 people, which I think he could do, compared to what Biden, who doesn't even want to go out and campaign, and Trump, who, is pulling people, but it's not what it was in 2016 for him. Who knows? Crazier things have happened, right? Donald Trump became president.
I want to ask you a question, just part two, real quick. Why is the left eating the left? Do you think you have a role in that? Because I see a lot of carnivorous activity on the left. What role do you think you play with that?
I mean, honestly, I try very hard, and I don't really think I do it. I don't put other hosts' names in, headlines and shit like that, which a lot of other people do. Because it would be profitable and it would get me a lot more clicks. Like I'm not putting Jimmy Dore's name in a headline or doing a show on Jimmy Dore. If somebody brings him up,
he ain't left. Yeah, he's not left.
But as far as other people, I don't know. I mean, I see a lot of the fighting that's gone on over the last few years. And I think it's a lot of it comes from people who, frankly, know it's profitable to attack others on YouTube. People like drama. But I also think there's an element of it where some people that were formerly left or were very hardcore left are starting to shift to whether it's intentionally playing to the right or just have some ignorant positions. But I can't answer it. That's why I try to stay in my lane. I mean, sure, I've gotten involved sometimes where I probably shouldn't have. And I have to own that. But for the most part, I try to keep it on, the stories I cover and I try to, like, I'm not interested in covering Anna Kasparian's latest bullshit or, Jimmy's latest stupidity. If I'm asked about it, I'll give my opinion, but I let other people. And I think people are getting tired of it. Honestly, I think certain people want to just watch 24/7, eating each other alive. But I think a larger part of the audience is tired of it and want us to start actually covering issues, protests, movements, unions, labor. So I'll do that. And if other people want to fight amongst themselves, then, they could do that. I got to run to the next person. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jordan.
Yeah. All right. Jonathan, you're up.
Hey, Jordan, how you doing?
I'm good, man.
Good. So I wanted to lay down a statement and then a question. I'll keep them both relatively not too long a length. So earlier today on Twitter, I got into this debate with somebody who's like a blue wave Czech vote dollar who he pointed to between the years of 2000 and 2020 as how third parties didn't get combined and get 5% of the vote. So what chances Cornel West has? And I pointed out to him, hey, listen. You're ignoring a lot of the people's polls where they're tired of, if it's Trump and Biden again, almost half the country would be open to voting for somebody else. There's people that are tired of the economy, inflation, and so it's really 2024 shaping up not to be like the last 23 years. So I really just think a lot, and there's really just so many of these guys. Every time I see them on. I see a lot of people I follow, like you and Ryan Knight and all these other guys that are anti-duopoly, and then they these blue wave sheep come in with their high horse or their high donkeys, and tell people what they're doing is wrong and you're going to get us Trump and blah 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 blah, and it just feels like a perpetual endless cycle. And what I really like about Cornel West is he really embraces the criticisms. Like, it doesn't matter how many people, like, when he's doing interview shows and people who do call-ins tell him, don't do this. He understands where people are coming from, but he really feels like he has a principle to follow. And I really admire that about him.
Yeah. Listen, 30 years ago, Ross Perot got nearly 20 million votes. He got 19%. I don't think anyone would argue Ross Perot was as charismatic, articulate, or inspiring as Cornel West. Obviously, much different circumstances.
Obviously not. And
obviously,
then he got 8% in the following election. So
yeah, obviously,
I believe Cornel West can get that 5%.
Yeah, obviously, much different time, different circumstances. But at the end of the day, there was an independent candidate who got 20 million, almost 20 million votes. So I'm not saying Cornel West will do that, but I don't think it's that impossible to see him get over 5%. I actually don't think it's too out of the question for him to do better than that, because in fact,
I think it actually relates to my question. I don't think this will happen because I think there's, for a couple of reasons, these two men might maybe have little different political differences, even though their policies they kind of align with, and also it happened in 2020 with how a lot of the Green Party treated him. Like, what do you think the chances of Cornel? How well do you think Cornel would do if, like, he chose Jesse Ventura as his running mate?
I don't think Jesse Ventura would ever run to be somebody's running mate. I just don't see him. If he's running, I think he's doing it.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Top dog. I think Cornel. I mean, I don't think I wouldn't put it out of the question of him asking Ventura. I don't think Ventura would do it as vice president. I don't see that happening.
Okay,
I could see Cornel West asking Nina Turner.
What do you think percentage do you think those two would get together?
Him and Ventura?
Yeah, Cornel, Ventura. November 24 happens, they're on the ballot. What percentage of vote do you think they get if a ticket, regardless of which one's the vice president and which one's running for president?
I think it's possible they could get 15 to 20% if it's West and Ventura, because Ventura is another.
I agree with that.
Ventura is another guy that has mass appeal, I think, to Republicans, independents, maybe even some Democrats, young people. I think they could be. I don't really know how it would mesh because that's two very different styles, but I could definitely see them doing 15 to 20%, maybe even winning a state or two.
Oh yeah, especially with Maine and Alaska having ranked choice voting, they could win one of those two states.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at this point, I think he's doing what he needs to do. He's doing interviews across a variety of podcasts, major platforms. African-American media, some media that's a little more skewed to the right wing, cable news to try and reach older people. Really what it comes down to now is this campaign going to have an infrastructure? Like, for example, I reached out to him yesterday, asked who's your campaign manager, because Jill Stein made an announcement that she's moving to an advisor. He said he'll get back to me. So I don't really know if they actually have a campaign manager right now, which is obviously problematic. And he's definitely going to need to start doing some events, rallies, getting out there on picket lines, going around, smaller events, bigger events. So obviously you need a campaign infrastructure for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, look, Marianne Williamson lost two of her managers and she's still in the race. So who knows?
Absolutely. But I'm glad. I'm glad he's running, and I'm glad he's running third party. And honestly, at this point, if people want to do the whole voter shaming thing and, huff and puff about costing Biden the election, then let them do that. But at the end of the day, I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but it's up to the politicians to convince the voters, not the other way around.
Exactly. And Cornel West has my vote. And, the guy who called was from Florida. I can vouch for that. It's definitely odd here. And I don't really care if I vote for a third party in a swing state because, it's like the analogy from one of the Revolutionary Blackout Network guys said about how Walmart's Democrats, Target's Republicans, and Cornel West's Greens are the mom and pop shop. And he says, how is my sale to mom and pop shop going to Target? That doesn't make any sense. How am I hurting Walmart by going to the mom and pop shop? The sale was in their registers, not Target's.
Right.
So I like that analogy a lot. I think I'm just going to utilize that every time a vote shamer comes to me. I got friends and family that I know that are blue wave Trump. If you're afraid of Trump, don't vote outside Democrat. John will shame you for it. Kind of people around me. So I have to try. I have my due diligence, and I'm going to support. And thanks for this time. And I will try to remain vigilant. And I hope Cornel West will remain vigilant despite all these hit pieces on him that are coming out.
All right, man. Thanks for calling.
All right, you too, man. Thanks for having me.
Tony, you're up.
Hello, Jordan.
Hey.
Hey, thank you. First of all, I want to say it was great to see you on the Vanguard show yesterday.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a good time.
So I wanted to ask you about the Green Party's election cycle, because you mentioned how their primary does not end until about summer of next year. And I want to ask you if you think that should be the election calendar for all elections for all the parties, because I think it makes a lot more sense, because they waste so much time by having all this news coverage on Democrat and Republican primaries about a year and a half or 2 years before the election even happens. So I wanted to hear if you think that should be the election calendar for all parties.
Well, that's how they do it in other countries. The news does not cover elections like a year and a half, 2 years before. I mean, it's crazy. And you don't have primaries that go on for over a year. You have I think in Europe, maybe like a couple months. Yeah, I would prefer that. Cable news and the corporate media wouldn't, because good ratings and clicks
for them.
Yeah, I mean it's easy. It's an easy thing to coverage. Other than the expenses, sending reporters around the country to follow these candidates like stenographers, it basically gives them something every 2 years to cover. And it's basically, I compare it to like Sports Center. It's like they cover politics as sports. But no, I don't think it's good for the country. And I could tell you, I mean, in 2016, it badly hurt the people of Flint, who that was covered for about a week or two. And then they moved back on to campaign coverage, even though the election wasn't until November. And it badly hurts other stories that get, washed away. Look at East Palestine. That was covered this year for a couple months or two. And then they moved on to like the Republican, horse race. So I don't know what you could do. You can't technically make a law. I mean, you could, but I don't see our government making any laws about media coverage or when they can and cannot start election coverage. But on the other end, it is starting to fade because cable news audience is shrinking. I don't really think most younger people want to start paying attention to elections in the end of 2022. They want more. Younger people want more climate coverage, want more coverage on unions, want more coverage on the attacks against, LGBTQ, transgender people, want more coverage on, the economy, on student loans. They don't want to hear about fucking Nikki Haley versus, I forget the Indian guy's name. So,
Vivek,
Vivek
Ramaswamy.
So, and by the way, but this is also, they cover it not only because it's ratings, but because most of the reporters in this country, reporters with air quotes in this country, are more interested because they're just political nerds, are more interested in covering that than like people being poisoned around the country or local and state corruption or, communities being fucking bombed by a railroad of toxic chemicals. They just want to cover what they want to cover, which is who's up, who's down, the campaign horse race, the dirty politics, the dirty tricks. So it sucks. It's a disservice, but that's the system.
I still remember in 2014, they already started speculating on who a Democratic nominee would be. And it was 2 years prior to the election. It's crazy.
No, it's absurd. Absolutely absurd. And I mean, it's the same shit. The financial crash that happened, 2008, 2009, covered it for a few months, and then they were on to the midterms. And after the midterms, it was, 2012. It's like the fucking world economy crashed and they covered it for 5 minutes and then just kind of swept it under the rug. And it crashed because of greed and fraud among the banks, who, by the way, sponsor cable news channels. So, yeah, it's nauseating. And obviously, they're not going to cover the whole election. I mean, yeah, they'll have Cornel West on for interviews, but they're not exactly going to be covering Cornel West rallies once they start extensively, because they certainly didn't cover the Bernie ones. I was there, and they barely got mainstream media coverage. They're not going to be covering, his policies, or they're going to be covering, Trump and, the 24/7 criminal stuff going on with him. Biden and, he's down in the polls, blah, blah, blah. DeSantis, they're not going to cover Cornel West, certainly not going to cover Marianne Williamson, which they've blacked her out. They'll cover RFK, but mostly in a negative way, which frankly he deserves.
He deserves.
So yeah, it's up really. I mean, I've been covering Cornel West a lot, not as much to put on a Cornel West hat, but because I think it deserves coverage. Like, he's a well-known figure. He's running a third-party candidacy. A lot of the shit they're spewing is, just propaganda and not backed up by data or facts. And I think he's saying a lot of things that I agree with and millions of people agree with. So that should be covered, and the mainstream media should be covering it the same way I am, but clearly they're not. So good for me and bad for them.
What's crazy about West is, when I've seen him on CNN and other mainstream interviews, they don't even ask questions about policies.
No.
They just cut right to trying to smear him. And, ever since 2016, I was a little bit skeptical about, voting for somebody who was not experienced in office before. And I wonder what you think he could get done without having that kind of experience in office.
I think Jesus or Moses or whatever your leader is could get elected president. With this Congress, not much. The value in having a Bernie or a Cornel West is 2-3 things: bringing a movement into politics, into the presidency, which means, a lot more pushing and organizing and shaming and lobbying of Congress from us rather than actual lobbyists, through a movement leader as president. And 2, whipping out that executive pen.
Right.
I don't think Cornel West would be coming up, twisting himself into a pretzel to come up with excuses why he can't do things the way Biden has. So Cornel West, I think, would push to the max executive action, within the realm of not being a dictator, and let the lawsuits, fall where they fall, because there would be plenty. But I think the value is executive authority, and also galvanizing your base. I think, unfortunately, Bernie, after his second campaign, just kind of let his organizing, the massive army he had, just kind of left him. I don't mean through politics. I mean, the guy had more people in his Slack channel than members of the DSA, but he didn't tap into them to continue fighting. Where I think Cornel West, if something crazy happened and he won the presidency, I think he would activate his people to get to DC and, lobby for this thing. And that's what we need. It's one thing to have hashtags. It's another thing to get, thousands of people to DC for things. So that's what I think we need.
Yeah, absolutely. One last thing. I'm a big fan of Ron Pacone, and I hope that your channel gets more funding so we can see him on here a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, he's still been doing videos for us, but yeah, I mean, listen, if that's why I've been pushing membership. Honestly, it's going to take more people to sign up. I'm not going to ask Ron or other people to, do an hour a week, which obviously they got to prep for it a little bit, for, $20. I need funding so I could pay people, decent. So it's just between having to bring on John more consistently on the camera side, I just had to make cuts. But he understood, and I'm hoping that if some trips we've gotten 100 member signups, if we could really grow, keep growing, if we could start getting like 50 to 100 paid signups a month, then I'm very confident we could fund people like Ron and others. Because I've always said I don't want it to just be me. I want to, grow a network. So for sure.
I see so many channels on YouTube that are partisan and defend Democrats or defend Republicans. But I just think that the folks on your channel are the highest of integrity, and you're the best at what YouTube has to offer.
Listen, we do something radical. We fucking go after all of them, not one side. They're all corrupt. They are all without souls for the most part. And they're all attacking the American people just in different ways. So I very much question any channel that all you get is Democrats are evil and they just completely ignore Republicans, or all you get is Republicans are, Lucifer, and they simp for Democrats and ignore Democrats. That's just clearly that's a formula rather than intellectual, honesty and consistency. Does my coverage probably skew a little bit more Democrat? Yeah, that's just because I don't really think I'm breaking any new ground on certain things with Republicans, but I'll certainly cover Republican corruption, fascism, hate. And I've done it on the ground, and I've done it in studio, and I'll do it till the day I die. So, I'm hoping that more people find this channel, because I think we have been doing and are continuing to do. We're the only ones walking the walk. We're not just talking about all this shit. We're going out there, and it not only does it take money, it takes a lot of effort. I mean, I don't work 9 to 5, never have, never will. When you're going on the ground, it is 16, 17-hour days, and it takes a lot of planning before you go on the ground. With Lewis this week, trying to line up interviews and find news stories before you go, that's a full-time thing too. And then there's, when you get back from a trip, you're working constantly. You're not really taking a break. You're working constantly to push out the content and market it and get on other shows. So this is a 24/7 thing. We don't have the funding I wish we had, but listen, if people I know for a lot of people, they can't afford another $5 to $10 a month on something, and I respect that. But for those that can, I think your money, if you got to choose one outlet, humbly, I say choose us, because we're the only ones getting out there on the ground, speaking to the people and exposing things on the ground. So, all right, I got to go, Tony, because I got to go.
Thank you so much, Jordan.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to people that are still in the queue. I will do another call in either tomorrow or Monday. I got to go help with the baby, put the baby down, who is 9 months old tomorrow. So a happy birthday. Maybe my wife will let me bring her on for a second just to show her cute face. I'm always asking my wife, but she's not thrilled about that. Which, I get. So thank you so much for watching. Let me read some super chats here. Again, new member Daniel, thank you so much. Website donation from Ed, $5. And you can, if you're already a member, you could donate to help support these reporting trips. StatusCoup.com/donate. So thank you, Ed, for that. Thank you. Another website donation from Lenny, $25 for East Palestine trip. Thank you very much. That might cover lunch. Tommy, new member Tommy. Thank you, Tommy, for signing up. John, $25. Thank you for covering stories that no one else will cover. Why, thank you, John, for the contribution and the kindness. Thomas, 6 months as a member. Hey, community. Thank you, Thomas, for supporting us. Mike signed up as a new Status Coup member, so thanks so much, Mike. By the way, as a new Status Coup member, you get access to our monthly members calls. We just did one last week, so you go to Status Coup, or Colin, you could tell them at the end how they get access to that. King, $4.99. I'm in skilled trades at a Ford plant in Michigan. We are definitely going to strike, but I feel it will be short. Ford and UAW have a solid relationship. I'll take a short strike as long as you guys get the contract you deserve. Short and sweet would be fine. Thank you so much, King. And by the way, Ford and UAW might have had a solid relationship in the past, but there's a new sheriff in town, at UAW. And this guy, Sean Fain, not messing around. So Ford might have had a decent relationship in the past. I'm not so sure with this new president. King, another $4.99. I have been spreading the word to any new worker going through their first contract that the higher their signing bonus, the more you're getting screwed. That's interesting. You're probably right. They probably give higher signing bonuses so they could screw you on the actual wages and benefits, for sure. Brenda, $5. My new saying is, if you're not criticizing both parties, you're bootlicking for one. I'm 100%. I'm going to copy and paste that because I might steal it. Or no, I will give you credit, Brenda, because that is a great saying and so true. And unfortunately, there's a lot of fucking bootlickers out there. And you know who are bootlicking for one side or the other. Thank you to everybody. Let me make sure I didn't miss any member signups here. You could sign up any time of the day, and we'll shout you out on the next show. StatusCoup.com/join to sign up. If you missed the video from earlier, I did a video that Biden is sweating over this possible massive UAW strike. So give that a click on that, view it, share it, like it, comment, all those things. Check out Lewis's live stream from yesterday if you missed it. Great updates and new information on the East Palestine disaster. It is still a disaster. My coverage the other day on the ground of the nurses' strike. Colin, are we updated on the podcast yet?
Yes, yeah. Each time there's a show that's not like your on the ground coverage, it's both available on podcasts at most things like Spotify, and now also if you have the YouTube Music app. Each time we finish a live stream, it should show up there in audio form as well, if you guys like using that.
Yes. So if you are, not able to at work, watch. If you're just driving and you'd like to listen to the show, you can listen to the shows, the live streams, through podcasts. So go to wherever you get your podcasts, give us 5-star review, all that stuff, because we definitely want to get some more downloads on the audio front. We might at some point start doing original podcasts, just audio versions. So definitely do that. Go to our store to get your swag, statuscoup.com/store. We got our new line, the Poison States of America. We got Capitalism, COP, Capitalism, and the United Corporations of America shirt, hats, beach towels, phone covers, you name it. statuscoup.com/store. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back at it here tomorrow.